Hello everyone, this is Bijan. I'm going to work on the hip by bringing a sphere and flattening it. Mask the area where I want to preserve. And then I use the edge loop masked borders and then split the mask points and then delete the hidden. Then I close holes. And then I mask it again and using the transpose tool to give it a little bit of a twist. The upper part and the lower part should be somewhere about I would say 90 degrees off center against each other, about 90 degrees. Using the reference images that I have over here, trying to get this shape as closely as possible matching the image. uh, Looking at it and say this is just too much polygons trying to work with, and you can see that I'm struggling because of the number of polygons here. When I found out that when I'm moving parts, it is best if it is not so dense, because it just gets too wavy. If it was smaller number of polygons, it would be so much easier to push in and out just the whole area at once and not have to go back and forth. But I am still forcing myself to remember that, and sometimes I forget about it and I keep doing it, doing the same thing. uh, Not only it would help in moving, using the move brush and moving the parts back and forth, but it also helps you when you try to smooth. For example, uh, you just smooth and a whole amount, a large area that you could just smooth out and uh, you know, get to where you want it. uh, because I like to use the clay build-up brush, and I really like seeing those little streaks that the clay brush makes. I give it a lot of polygons and do that. Use the Z add and Z subtract by using the Alt key and scrape away and then build up. It's kind of fun, and that's why I keep giving it more uh, polygons. And then I get to areas where I pinch a lot of these polygons together and crumble them up, and then when I need to smooth it, it just doesn't want to get smooth. I keep seeing artifacts in there. It's just lots of folds, and I try to use the inflate and then smooth, inflate, smooth, remesh, re uh, dynamesh, and I finally cut it, and then that still had difficulty fixing it. So the only solution is to go to the lower resolution, lower polygons, and move things around, smooth it, and then go back up. So that's why I ended up doing here, because it just wasn't working. Okay, I'm bringing a cylinder over here, in appending a cylinder to use it as a cutaway in the lower part of the hip bone, and using the Boolean system in ZBrush, take away some of that clay. Here I'm trying to create the mass over there to indicate the joint in the hip bone. I'm using the trim dynamic to cut away, push back some of those high areas on the edge, and I'm using the clay buildup to form the area, thicken up the area where the joint is going to be. And I'm polishing it, and the unit is getting the sculpture is getting too thin, so I need to thicken it up. I go to the deformation menu and use inflate to thicken it up, and then using the clay buildup brush, take away the thick parts and add on thin to the thin areas, and then move brush again to push things around. It looks like it's the top part is getting a little too wide, so soon I'm gonna have to bring the reference images to compare it, see how I'm doing. Building a little platform over there for the sacrum that later on I'm going to have to add to it. That joint area has a little low area that I need to cut away. bringing the light box again, spotlight, I'm sorry, bringing the spotlight back with the reference images, trying to get the shape as close as possible to those images I have. Those were the screenshots that I took. I may have not had the model in the right angle. That's why when I use it on one reference image and then move it in the other one, they don't match, so I have to kind of guess at where it should be and try to work with it. As long as it looks like what it is, it gives you the illusion of I'm not trying to be a perfect modeler here, just trying to learn the system and sculpt and make something that might look pleasing. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be good enough. What did I say? Fake it until you make it. So, but not like the fake news though. Fake news, you fake it, you don't make it. All right, do a mirror and well to have the other side added to it, and the width of the hip is the same as the rib cage. So every time I move it around and sculpt it and it shrinks or gets too big, I'm gonna have to readjust it so it has the same width. And of course the rib cage is 2 cranium wide, and the cranium is the unit of measurement. Cranium is the unit of measurement I use for measuring all the body parts and positions and what have you. So here I'm going to be working on the clavicle a little bit, and just need to thicken the end and then push it up and flatten the area where it meets the scapula, the coronium process. Chromium process. That is a very hard thing to say, is it? Let me see. Acromion process meets the acromion process. I knew that I could probably fake it and say what it is, but it wasn't successful. Acromion process. Alright, looks like I need to twist the scapula a little bit, and then I can move that acromion process lower to meet the clavicle. adjusting the scapula a little bit, making the edges a little bit more even by using the move brush. As I was moving and twisting and masking, whenever you mask, you got to be careful about other areas getting masked that you don't see over here. The what is it? Coracoid? I think it's called coracoid process. That one got deformed, so I'm using the inflate brush and then smoothing it, and then using the clay build up to build it back up. And I don't have a image reference here to see what it's called. I think it's called coracoid process. It's I can't find it here. So here I'm clipping those corners so later on add the deltoids, and bringing the little rib cage blob, cutting the groove in the back where the ribs are kind of coming in and going inward and hooking up to the spine vertebra. And here what I'm going to do is, I don't need to do that, but I don't know why I get carried away and keep doing extra stuff that is not necessary. Using the mask brush, I'm masking the area where the ribs going to be. There's going to be 12 ribs on either side, each side, and I'm gonna, with the mask brush, I'm going to indicate where they are on this shape where we built it up earlier, showing what the rib looked like, what the rib cage looked like. So here I'm indicating the actual ribs on this piece. Now those ends, I'm not bringing them close because they're cartilages that hook up to the connecting tissues or whatever they call it. They gotta come up and hook up to the sternum. So for right now, I'm following the shape of the ribs, the way they come down, and trying to get the distance kind of relatively equal, although they're not equal distances. If you look at the real ribs, they have different shapes and different distances between them. Sometimes they're not all even, but close enough. Now there are 12 ribs on either side. 2 of them are floating ribs, the last 2. So 10 of them are up there, and then when we get to the 11 and 12, they don't, they hook up to the spine, but they kind of float down there. They don't hook up to anything else. So now I'm gonna go ahead and use the deformation and deflate it and make those masked area pop out. And then using the clay build-up brush, indicate where the sternum is going to be. And sternum kind of follows the curve of the rib cage, comes down like a not a straight, they call this like a dagger. Yeah, the shape of it is like a dagger, but it's not a flat one, it's kind of curved. And the ribs hook up to it. These are the connecting tissues or the cartilages that go from the end of the ribs into to the sternum. over here I don't have them pointing up as far enough. They should really be a little bit more steeper coming up, but it's good enough. The ninth and the 10th ribs, actually the 8th, ninth, and the 10th, they hook up to the other cartilages. They don't go to the sternum directly. And I'm gonna adjust these cylinders. I decided to go ahead and make a what do you call it? Not femur, humerus. Make a humerus bone with those cylinders. Thin them out and lengthen them, and put a little blob on that end to indicate a joint ball that goes into the scapula. Here's I'm working on the epicondyle of the humerus, where two more bones are going to be connecting to them, and that end of the humerus, one of them is ulna, which makes your elbow, that pointy head thing of the elbow, and then the radius that allows you to twist your lower arm. I guess the reason I like the clay build-up brush is because it acts like a real clay. Here I'm twisting the humerus to get the end, the ball, fit the scapula, and it's a little bit too short, so I'm positioning the transpose tool over there and lengthening it a little bit. The other end of it should be around the bottom of the ribs. That's why I need it to lengthen it. Here I'm bringing a sphere to use it for the triceps. In this, I just flatten it to get a blob, and then I need to have two heads on that end, so use the clip tool, clip curve tool, or not tool, brush, and cut away a piece and use the move tool and smooth tool to pull that end to the scapula. And position the muscle in the right place. Pushing it to the side and actually Basically, just pushing it to the back. And pulling that in with the move brush where it's going to hook up to the ulna. Here again I have difficulty smoothing, so I go to the low resolution, get rid of those wrinkles and crumpled up areas, and using the Damon standard brush to show a little separation of the two heads of the triceps over there. And here I shape the tricep to widen it so you can see from the front. They're kind of sticking out from the front. You can see them very well. Appending in a sphere here to use as a filler for the lower part of the rib cage. I didn't have the X symmetry on, so I had to undo and then resculpt it using the clay build-up brush to cut away and then build up the muscles that go to the side, the what are they called, the external oblique, and then the belly muscles, and smooth them. Making some of those trapezius muscles come to the acromion process and pull the head up a little bit. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. Hit thumbs down if you don't. And I will see you guys later. Cheers.